Welcome to episode 130 of the Inside Byte. I'm your host, Tim Schaefer. I'm here with my co-host, Rudy. How you doing this week?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'm kind of bummed, though, because we just got a ton of snow last night. And, of course, it's not on a school day, so that sucks. Just a total waste of snow.
Now, if you had a ton, right? Okay, I guess it all depends on the snow plows and where you live and all of that mess. Is everything
Right.
pretty much good by the morning when you have something like that?
In New York, they're so used to it that it just gets cleaned up so quick, you know. If
Okay.
it had been going on tonight, that might be a different story. But I think it's
Okay.
going to be all wrapped up by tomorrow. So, yep, just a normal week. Nothing of note.
I've always wondered that, though, like the fact that it is done by the next day. Now, you live in New York. Now, do you live New York City? Do you live like 20 minutes outside?
Yeah, it's about maybe like 45 minutes outside of the city, north of the city. So,
But how does New York City even operate? Isn't there is there like sectors of New York City? Like, what do they call those?
yeah, so they're boroughs, right? There's 5 boroughs of New York
Okay.
City. So I'd say the one that most people visit who are not familiar with New York is probably like Manhattan or something, right? So if I ever want to go to New York City, I usually take the train, but sometimes I'll drive down there, but driving in the city is a pain. And so that leads me to my next point. The snow in the city is wild because think about it. It's like a grid, right? Lines intersecting everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy for snow plows and things to get through there. So it's kind of hectic, it gets a little crazy. So yeah, I'm sure it's a mess up there right now, or down there rather right now.
Where it's like basically one lane, one ways. I don't know how the hell they would even get down those.
I still have some friends who live down there, and it's definitely a pain every time. Like it's not, for example, where I live here, there's a lot of more open space and you can push the snow to the side. Think about it. In the city, it's like there's sidewalks everywhere where you're pushing the snow on. You got to find like these little ways to put it in between. It's just the whole thing, man. It's tough. Yeah. So
anyway, I clearly never think about it living in Florida, but
yeah,
now
obviously.
all of my mind is running on like, how does it all work? But whatever.
It's crazy to think that in such a big place with so many millions of people, that these things that happen every day run as smoothly as they do. It's just a wild thing to think about.
Well, I guess it just kind of has to because it's been going for so long, right? I mean,
right.
They've had to have figured this out 40 years ago. So at this point, you would think they'd be efficient enough. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm just, even the thought of it just happening in general, even if it's been happening for a long time, still to me is like, what if one of these things stopped, like when COVID happened and the subways shut down and everything? Like, wow, that completely shuts down the whole infrastructure of all that every day, millions of people riding the subway, so.
We'll get off after this, but I was watching something about them in Japan running the trains and how punctual they have to be because you're off by 2 minutes. Now that affects hours by the end of the day. So that was pretty cool to watch. You can watch, it's called A Day in the Life of, X, and it would be a random person working a random job in Japan, and they just follow their whole day of work and what all they do. And it's super interesting. I recommend anybody watching that on YouTube.
That's cool. Anyway, I like that.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our main topic of the day. And we decided upon what defines an RPG. So we've been, at least me, ranting on Final Fantasy 16 just not being up to par to what I look for in an RPG. So what should an RPG have and what technically defines an RPG? Because now at this point, we're having RPG elements in a God of War, which, God of War back in the PS2 days would never have any RPG elements, so it's bleeding into anything and everything. But, I still want to be able to have some fine lines when it comes to different genres. So when I say a game is X, when I say something is RPG, what exactly does that mean in 2024?
Right.
And that's what I would like to talk on and try to get into the nitty gritties and just try to actually figure out, well, the first question, I guess, can be this. What do you think What are you thinking of when somebody says a game is an RPG? Do
Right.
you immediately have a question after somebody says that? So they mention this game. Let's take this, right. Let's say this is an RPG. What is this? Hello Kitty Strawberry. Let's say there's a new RPG, Hello Kitty Strawberry Adventure. So
Sure.
and you're like, oh, what type of game is that? Oh, it's an RPG. Okay, well, what are you expecting out of that? What do you think? What are some defining factors that come to your mind?
So I first think of is there some sort of, I guess I always associate RPGs with like some sort of leveling system, right?
Okay.
Because then I know when people sometimes try to call Zelda an RPG, I don't really feel like it falls in that category.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the first thing that makes me think it's not. Sometimes I'll think of, are there some sort of random battles? That always makes me think of RPG. I know that's not standard. That's more of a JRPG thing. But in my head, those things are so intertwined because I love JRPGs so much.
I do separate the two. So if somebody says JRPG, I'm thinking random battles. If somebody says RPG, I'm not thinking random battles.
Yeah, sure.
So
okay, I think, do you control one or a number of characters steadily throughout the game, right? Like, for example, am I controlling two people throughout the game? Am I controlling one person throughout the game? But I'm controlling them throughout the whole game. I'm progressing with them. I'm playing their role, technically.
Yeah.
I guess those are probably the main things. I know that RPG, the very, very like hardcore version of it is a little different, right? You have stuff like Baldur's Gate 3 or something, right? But then in the same vein, a game like maybe like Cyberpunk is an RPG too, right? But one is way more towards that RPG, like the classic definition of it, I guess, than the other. But I
think the themes are different, but I don't think anything else is that much different in terms of like you're still dealing with stats of like strength and dexterity and whatever, right? In either game, you're still dealing with like choices, right? Of like what I guess character growth, right? So when I think RPG, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like, do I level up? Do I have character progression? Is it focused on a big narrative, right? So like when I think Zelda, and why I don't think Zelda's an RPG is like there's hardly any narrative. If there is, it's more of like an overarching one over the whole series, but there's not really like big story moments, Outside of, I'd say Tears of the Kingdom probably has the most story out of any Zelda game to date. In really cool ways, actually.
The only other one I'd say has as much or more is Skyward Sword, I think.
Yeah.
They really ran with the story a lot in that one. But yes, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I guess to go off of that, though, that's why it's so funny because right now, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but I just finished a game. So now I'm looking at my options and I'm like, okay, I've been playing Octopath Traveler 2 for about, I don't know, an hour and a half, not that long yet. I'm just now going to get really into it. And then I want to go back to Final Fantasy 15, which has been just sitting in my mind, at the back, wanting to go back to it. And I turned on Final Fantasy 16 today.
Yes.
For like 5 minutes, just to kind of, refamiliarize myself with what's going on and all that. And then I played Octopath Traveler 2 for about 20 minutes just to keep going. And my God, the experiences are so, so different. It's like Octopath Traveler 2 in every ounce of it is an RPG, right? They really, really are laying it on you. You can walk around town. You can use specific abilities. You can get gear. There's percentages, chances for this to happen, chances for that to happen. There's different story, right? It's like a full-blown RPG. I'm walking around. I'm exploring these sewers, and in Final Fantasy, I booted it up and I'm like, I click a button to go to a map. I run around. I fight an enemy, and then nothing to explore, just go. And that's kind of what turns me off about Final Fantasy 16. I feel like that's what's missing. When I go to battle someone, I'm not sitting here in Octopath and in Bravely Default, for example, I'm mixing and matching armor sets or items or, their accessories, abilities. I'm changing jobs. None of that stuff is happening in Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16, you literally go in. This sword has a higher number than this sword. Put it on. Go fight the enemy. Click, 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 square, 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 X, X, And I think that's what bugs me so much about it. I do want to see it through, but it's going to be hard when I'm playing these two, and one is so much more of an RPG than the other. And some people are okay with this move, but I don't like it. I'm okay with the action style combat, right? But I'm not okay with it.
If it had the depths of the rest, right? So if we had the action, but then we also had a choice of like, well, not just, 5 hours in, I have this sword. 8 hours in, I have a sword with plus 10 attack. But then that's literally my options,
That's
right?
it.
I don't get to choose a lance. I don't get to choose a boomerang. I don't get to, like, I'm stuck with the sword. And as the game goes, I just get a stronger and stronger sword. And then that's it. So there's like there's no options, there's no choice. And maybe that's, what an RPG is to me, is strong on narrative, strong on choices, and choices diving into many things of like, okay, armor, weapon class, maybe I can integrate a rune with a piece of armor and create a fire effect, or maybe I want to have like an ice effect to my sword and I can equip like some gem to that to make it that, right? All of that is not really present in this game. So it's like, not only is the gameplay just narrow pathways of action, and there's no exploration. There's to see, trying to find little mini adventures inside of your grand adventure is, well, like, yeah, you have side quests, but side quests in the manner of what any action game would have.
Right. Very, very basic side quests. The characters I do like, and I enjoy the story so far, but that's really all the game has going for it, in my opinion. So whenever people say that Final Fantasy 16 should have been in the Game of the Year list and everything, I'm like, you guys are crazy, man. You're putting Final Fantasy 16 in the same talk as Baldur's Gate 3 and Zelda and Alan Wake 2, really? To me, that blows my mind. There's no possible way I could see that being on the same level. So,
not to sidetrack too much, because I want to talk about what an RPG is, but there's one thing of what you're saying here that I must harp on is, let's say we detached it from what we wanted out of an RPG, and let's say, okay, it's just an action game. Just accept it as an action game with a cool story. Okay, let's have fun in that realm. Well, even that, it falls shallow, because when you play a similar game like that, let's say the same action creator, Devil May Cry, the same dude made the combat for this. But when you play Devil May Cry's action, there's far deeper layers than what there is in Final Fantasy 16's action combat. So even if you just take it as it just being an action game with a good story, it still falls flat for me. So
yeah. If you compare it to, like you were saying, if you compare it to similar games, right, like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, right? The thing with those games is, because they're so focused on the combat and making that the most important part of the whole game, they really, really nail it. And the game is 10, 12 hours long, and they really crush it. It seems like they tried to go in that direction. They didn't go all the way, and they made the game super long. So,
but back to RPG, I'll just say what I think. Let's finish here. So we can make a list. We'll type it out here as we go here. Let's see here. Okay. So what makes RPG? Number one, let's just say
leveling. Some sort of leveling.
Character progression. So let's say there isn't like, okay, you earn EXP after a battle. Okay, but let's just leave it at leveling. Let's leave it at leveling. And then number two, let's do.
Can you think of any RPG where you don't? Is there RPGs where you don't have levels? I'm trying to think of one, and I don't know. Can't think of it.
Okay, it is just leveling. Okay, and then the next here would be like weapon and armor customization.
Yeah.
I would say that's a big one, and
some sort of abilities, customizable abilities or something. That probably goes along with that, but some sort of.
Let's do weapon and armor customization, and then let's do abilities as another.
Okay.
Because that could be magic attacks. That could be like physical attacks, whatever. Some sort of ability progression.
Okay.
All right. Because you could do different channels of like, well, I could go towards an ice build with this abilities, or I don't want to do ice, I want to do poison build instead, or something like that. Some sort of ability progression. What's another one here? So story, a big narrative, focus on narrative.
Big focus on narrative. Some sort of questing, side quests or one or the other, I guess.
Yes.
Right.
So how do we want to define questing? So what makes that different than just you playing an action game? What's a quest?
Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe
genuinely asking because there is a difference. I just don't know how to put it into words here.
Well, is this the difference? Okay. So I'm thinking of I played Armored Core, I'm playing the game. The guy, you get the mission briefing, right? They say our goal is to destroy the building, whatever.
Yeah, those aren't quests. Those are strict mission structures. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So while they're doing that, they might also say something like, while you're at it, if we can get in and out of there in 20 minutes, that'd be great. To me, that still is just a little part of the mission. To me, when I think of a quest, it's more like a certain NPC is telling you something which leads to their desire.
Hey, I'm having a dying cat here, and I need some medicine that you need to get 3 towns over, right? If you could somehow bring that back to me, now you end up getting this cat to join your party, and then because of that, now this cat gets you unlock a ton of new abilities that you didn't have prior, and now you have new skills of like maybe you've been able to find something hidden in the grass because the cat's with you, right? It all like funnels into a bigger purpose.
I think the important thing, I'm trying to think of exceptions, but overall is some sort of character or someone's giving you this quest, this important thing. There's some sort of dialogue, then you have the quest. I think that's what I would guess makes it different.
So questing. What anything else you can think of? We got leveling, we got weapon and armor customization, we got ability progression, we got to focus on narrative, we got questing. I think that's it, right? I mean
that's all I can think of.
So does 16 hit any of these? We don't have leveling. We don't have weapon and armor customization.
Oh my God.
I don't care what people say. You don't. You can buy a new... I understand. You can buy a new piece of armor. You can buy a new weapon, but it just goes into a straight line and you just get the next best thing.
No, that's not we do have questing to an extent, even if they're...
Questing, yes. It's pretty shallow, but it's there. It is. Yeah, so we do have that. We have ability progression. We do have ability progression.
Yes. And I don't know if we mentioned it, but you play... I mean, I guess you could say that about any game. I was going to say you play a certain role of a character the whole time, but that's really every game. Yeah, that's every game.
Yeah. So we don't have leveling. We don't have armor and weapon customization, but we do have ability progression. We do have a focus on narrative, and we do... The problem is the questing is super shallow. So it's like ability progression focus. So it's like halfway there, right? And do we need all of these pieces to make an RPG? Do we need leveling? I can't think. Let me try to think of an RPG that I consider an RPG that doesn't have leveling. I don't think that exists, right? Let's go ahead and search in the moment, right? An RPG without leveling.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what you find there.
I didn't even find anything. The only thing that came up is Pathfinder. That's not an RPG.
Saga Scarlet Grace.
It would have to be very, very niche and unknown, because I ain't seen anything. So okay, so yeah,
it's all stuff that we've never heard of. Okay, every game I'm seeing, I've never heard of.
So I think that's a
leveling system,
pretty key factor. Also, weapon and armor customization RPG. Can you think of an RPG that doesn't have that? Weapon and
armor customization.
I can't think of an RPG.
Even like CRPGs still have some sort of customization.
Yeah, they have those.
So no, I don't think so.
Yeah. So I think I guess that's why I don't consider 16 an RPG. I mean, those two things alone are pretty major. Anyway, but this isn't about trying to figure out a 16 RPG. It is the overall question of what makes an RPG. And I feel this is I feel this is a good definitive 5 things here. Leveling, armor, weapon and armor customization, ability progression, focus on narrative and questing. And if it doesn't have those, then I don't consider it an RPG, and I throw a different genre at it and I say it has RPG elements in it, right? If it has ability progression, which a lot of games do, I don't consider that an RPG, but that's an RPG element, So I think that all aligns there. If a game has more of an in-depth questing thing around it, right? Let's say you're a kid going on this adventure and you get a lot of quests that you have to do, like Chia, right? Chia has questing, but that's not an RPG.
Yeah, I agree.
That's just an element of RPG put into it, right?
Do you think there are games that meet all of the criteria that we listed but are not RPGs?
Yeah, no. I couldn't think of,
Because, Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting question, dude. Some of these video game genres have gotten pretty complicated at this point.
Yeah, I feel pretty, and any RPG, I mean, I've played, like, realistically, I remember building games I beat on NES, Super Nintendo, PS1, PS2, because I built it during PS2 days. I made a whole list of every game that I beat, and I beat over like 200 RPGs by that point, and this was in the PS2 days. So I feel like I've beaten probably more around 400 or 500 at this point, if I really think about it, which is insane to think about. But I was shocked myself. I didn't think I ever was even that high back in PS2 days, but I was. The amount of like Super Nintendo and NES and PS1 and all that of like that actually like played and beat was pretty astronomical. But anyway, up in that list, I found at least 100 were RPGs that I beat.
Damn.
So it has me wondering, like, at this point, maybe it's 300. And at this point, I would say I can't think of a single one to where it didn't have any of these. I feel this is a pretty core basic list here. Again,
I think we nailed it there.
Weapon customization, weapon and armor customization. If it is just weapon or just armor, I could see a game having one or the other. But as long as it hits one of those, weapon and armor customization, let's just say or in case. But I really think it usually includes both anyway. I don't know. I can't come up to the top of my head where it's just one or the other, but I'm sure I could if I thought about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Maybe like Dark Cloud, right? I want to say that's just armor, not weapon, but I can't really think through there. Ability progression, focus on narrative and questing. Yeah, I feel that's pretty good there. So, and I don't consider Zelda one because it doesn't really have any of that. I mean,
no, I don't think so.
It has questing, but that's it. Like many games put you on a quest, but doesn't mean an RPG.
Yeah, it doesn't. But
I think if it is an RPG and it doesn't have questing, I think that wouldn't be an RPG at that point. How could you have an RPG without questing? That would
be weird.
So, I feel you have to have it, but many games could have any one of these. Many games have leveling. That doesn't mean it's an RPG. So yeah,
agreed.
Okay, well, there's our definitive list of what makes an RPG.
We did it. Now you guys can all relax.
16 is not an RPG, according to this.
God, no, it's not. Oh, gosh, so disappointing.
Because is there any other game again that doesn't have leveling? That's an RPG. So is 16?
Show me the game. Maybe it's out there. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I'm sure there's got to be some weird.
There has to be some. It's just clearly not. It's clearly not the standard, right? It's the exception. So
RPGs are like 80% of what I play. Like if I really sit and think about it, and they definitely hit all of those criteria. So yeah, I get pretty bummed when my favorite RPG
one
series,
of our favorite series.
I think it is my favorite RPG series. Doesn't have many factors of what make it RPG, and then so I'm not gonna be into it. So anyway, but I could have just accepted it as just being an action game, and a cool Final Fantasy action game. But I don't know. Even that, it falls short because it's not quite to the action of a Bayonetta. Or let's say Bayonetta Devil May Cry. I don't know. What's another one? That Dark Void game. That was a cool action game. Doesn't have
Yes, I remember
that.
that game. Yep.
What was that other? Beautiful Joe is a cool
Beautiful
action
Joe.
game.
I remember that.
don't know.
Man, that was a cool game. I remember that one.
What was the Vanquish? That was a cool action game.
Vanquish, Astral Chain had some cool
But
stuff going on.
think
It was
of
a
how
little different,
complex those action games, Vanquish, and like how complex its action is and how many layers it has.
Oh yeah, the
And,
combat gets so deep.
Yeah, and it's just not there. I feel with 16, and I played enough of it. You could say I 25 hours. I think was my current last I
was
checked.
Up to like 15 hours maybe or something like that. So I definitely put enough time in.
So I guess you could say it gets better, but it's like, okay, but at that point I don't care anymore. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna go back to it. I'm gonna give it a shot. But just know that when I was playing Alan Wake 2, I would genuinely be looking forward to playing it every day. And Final Fantasy 16, it almost feels more of like an obligation. Like I need to see this through. I need to see what happens, So
Yep.
But we'll see.
It's weird, and I guess we keep talking about so much. It's just because Final Fantasy is important to us. I mean, always has been.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That's exactly
it. All right, let's get into the news here. Speaking of Alan Wake, you can take this first one here.
Max Payne voice actor James McCaffrey passes away at 65. James McCaffrey, actor best known to video game fans as the voice of Max Payne, among other characters, has passed away. TMZ reports that McCaffrey died on Sunday after a battle with multiple myeloma, a form of cancer. A rep for McCaffrey tells the outlet that the actor died surrounded by friends and family. McCaffrey's extensive on-screen credits include roles in Law & Order, Suits, and Blue Bloods, and video games such as Alone in the Dark, Area 51. However, Remedy fans knew him best as the voice of Max Payne in all three entries. Furthermore, McCaffrey voiced Thomas Zane in Alan Wake, Zachariah Trench in Control, and most recently Alex Casey in Alan Wake 2. Sam Lake said the following: "I'm heartbroken to hear the sad news of James McCaffrey's passing. We worked together for more than 25 years. He was a lovely man and a dear friend. He was a key part of the Remedy family. He was a brilliant actor. No one could do what he did better than him." That sucks. And you know what I recently discovered? I think actually a friend told me that, for example, the actual real person who plays Alan Wake in the live action shots and the voice actor are two different people. And I didn't know that was the case here too. Like when they did the Game Awards presentation, he was up there with the mic singing, and then the guys doing the dance. So I didn't realize that. They did a great job with it, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sucks, man. I wonder what they're gonna do for his voice, I guess, if he appears in those remakes, maybe. Right? They're remaking them, right?
Yeah, they're doing Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes. So
I still have not played those games. I was going to, but then when I heard the remakes were coming out, I'm like, I'm just gonna wait now.
Yeah, well, I was going to and looked pretty deep into it, and to the point, okay, well, what should I play it on? How should I install it? That kind of level of thought. And eventually found out that like mouse and keyboard is the way to go. Even if you go to Steam Deck, the controls just don't really translate that well. And then on console, it's such a whole different beast because the whole point is to be able to like quickly turn at any
whip
point.
It around.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And you can't really do that with a joystick.
Okay.
So then I was like, okay, so it's just gonna be mouse and keyboard to install it. And so I guess I could do that, but now I'm curious what they're gonna do with these remakes, or how they're gonna approach this then. Because I'm more just like, well, okay, visuals are a little outdated. Do I care that much on the visuals? Should I just play it even though it's outdated visuals?
Right.
I don't know. I wanted to play it on my Steam Deck is what I was trying to achieve, and eventually hit a wall being like, no, it really does need to play mouse and keyboard. So then I stopped and wondering how they're going to handle these remakes. And
curious myself. I was going to play them. Then I ended up waiting, but
because you got to go in slow mo, and then there may be a person like way to the left of you in that slow mo that you got to like get to. And it
kind of makes me want to play them now because I want to play the third one too. I've heard people say they like the third one, but I don't know.
Now the third, you should be able to play on Steam Deck, and that'd be good.
I think I've had enough Remedy for now. Not just because I don't want to overdo it. I'll come back at a later point. So.
All right. Next year, the day before. So first of all,
The biggest
this all
scam.
was going on while we were on
We're
break,
off. Yeah.
and it's a shit show. I don't know.
What a mess, man.
What do I mean? Before even, well, I'll just read. Never mind. I'll just read this. So the day before, servers will turn off next month as developer Fantastic ceases operations. So this was pulled from Wesley over at Game Informer. So it's spelled weird. You're not supposed to say fantastic, but it's basically fantastic just without
That's
the
what I
A.
hear everyone say. Yeah.
Yes, it's just, yeah, we're just going to stick with fantastic in the pronunciation. Just know the A is missing. Okay. Fantastic announced earlier this morning that it would be closing down just days after launching its controversial game the day before. It said at the time that servers for the day before would remain in operation, but that the game's future was unknown. Now the studio has announced that it's officially ceased operations, and the day before servers will also be turned off next month. More specifically, the servers will be turned off on January 22nd. While the game has an emphasis on online play, it could still be played offline. However, on December 12th, 5 days after the game launched on Steam, it was pulled from the storefront, and the day before hasn't been available for purchase since. Plus, Fantastic says the game will be retired. Here's Fantastic's full statement on the server closure. Dear community, we regret to inform you that development company Fantastic has officially ceased operations, and as a result, the day before will be retired and the servers will be turned off January 22nd. As previously mentioned, in our collaboration with Steam, we'll be facilitating refunds for all the game purchases. For any players that have not already had their purchase refunded, Steam will now proactively refund all remaining players. We extend our gratitude for the community support throughout the project's life. Unfortunately, without a development team, we had no alternative choice but to officially close the project. First, how do you not have a development? Oh, I guess this is whatever. We sincerely thank all of our supporters throughout this journey and wish you all a happy holiday season. The day before launched early access on December 7th, the game peaked at 38,000 players, congruent users at launch on Steam, but that same day went all the way down to 55 players. And those 4 days after, the day before also received enough negative reviews from players to place it into the 10 worst reviewed games on Steam. Over the years, the day before has been the subject of controversy, ranging from requests from volunteer work, various delays, broken promises, and more. Fantastic has scrubbed its entire YouTube channel, leaving the following note as its channel subscription. We're grateful to everyone who supported us during these difficult years. It's been a fantastic journey over the past 8 years. So, over the past 8 years, this company has been stealing assets from this or that, or using whatever generic things that are on like Unreal's, engine or whatever the case may be, and just slapping together some BS, trying to launch a game, clearly way in over their heads, and everyone crapped on it the very moment it released, as they should have, because it was a hot pile of trash.
Yeah. Where do I even start with this? I like you said, we didn't get a chance to talk about this when it was first happening, but I watched some videos on it, and it just, when I first saw the first trailer, I'm like, okay, I don't think this is going to look like this when it comes out. Then they started doing weird stuff like, we're delaying the game because someone else, we have a copyright problem with our name, and we're not showing you gameplay. And then they released a statement saying, you should be basically like, you should be happy we're showing you this little bit of gameplay. And the gameplay was like, the character just running in an empty area for 5 minutes. It was at every turn, it was just like a red flag, So, and it's too bad too, because it was the most wishlisted game on Steam. It's like they had a good opportunity here, and obviously it was a whole scam and nonsense. How are you going to put out a game and 4 days later say, sorry, it didn't meet sales expectations, so we're shutting down? It's like almost seems like that was the plan from the beginning, All right. So next up, Insomniac addresses ransomware hack. Marvel's Wolverine development will continue as planned. Earlier this week, ransomware group Resida released more than a terabyte of data it illegally obtained by hacking Marvel's Spider-Man 2 developer, Insomniac Games. The hacked data comprised of more than 1.3 million files for a total of 1.67 terabytes of data, including information about Marvel's Wolverine, future Insomniac game titles, release schedules, private employee information like tax and employment forms, internal studio messages, and more. Insomniac has now publicly addressed the hack in a new statement stating that development on Marvel's Wolverine will continue as planned. Here's what the studio said in full. Thanks for the outpouring of compassion and unwavering support. It's deeply appreciated. We're both saddened and angered about the recent criminal cyber attack on our studio and the emotional toll it's taken on our dev team. We have focused inwardly for the last several days to support each other. We are aware that the stolen data includes personal information belonging to our employees, former employees, and independent contractors. It also includes early development details about Marvel's Wolverine for PlayStation 5. We continue working quickly to determine what data was impacted. This experience has been extremely distressing for us. We want everyone to enjoy the games we develop as intended, as our players deserve. However, like Logan, Insomniac is resilient. Marvel's Wolverine continues as planned. The game is in early production and will no doubt greatly evolve throughout development, as do all our plans. While we appreciate everyone's enthusiasm, we will share information about Marvel's Wolverine when the time is right. On behalf of everyone at Insomniac, thank you for your ongoing support during this challenging time. Last week, Resita, revealed it had hacked Insomniac Games, posting images to prove the validity of its claim and demanding 50 Bitcoin, roughly $2 million, from Sony within 7 days of release what it had discovered. Sony did not comply with the demand, and the ransomware group released 1.67 terabytes of hacked data pertaining to Insomniac. And basically, some extra info here. Okay, let's keep going. So this means that the Insomniac Games leak is a treasure trove of upcoming Marvel game details, specifically the apparent release windows for its first X-Men-inspired titles. 3 games have been agreed with a budget of approximately $120 million a pop, with the first one taking on the Wolverine story. So Wolverine no later than September 1st, 2025. X-Men Game 2 before December 31st, 2029. X-Men Game 3 before December 31st, 2033. That's not all, though. In addition to these claimed dates and the presumably once confidential budget for figures for the games, the Sony Insomniac Games leak gives us even more details about what's next for some of the studio's biggest titles. It's not just titles and release dates that have been leaked. Concept art footage and even playable early builds of some of these titles have also been included in the leaked data, meaning that there's very little studios working on that isn't now already out there for all of us to see. Sony Insomniac Games breach reveals new Spider-Man, Ratchet & Clank titles. The amount of information now floating around online regarding Sony's future gaming roadmap is vast. Over 1 terabyte, it turns out, is a whole lot of leakage. The highlights will be obvious to many gamers, however, and as well as the above Marvel titles include a new Spider-Man game on the horizon that will be a follow-up to 2023's Spider-Man 2 and presumably complete the trilogy. This one hasn't got a timeline attached to it, but what it does have is the tantalizing prospect of being able to control Venom in the game. This might end up being drawn out into a part 1 and part 2, making for 4 Marvel Spidey games in total. What does have a purported release date is the next Ratchet & Clank game, which is said to be pegged for 2029 and be a direct follow-up to the last title in the series, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Sony Hack also lays corporate fears bare. While it's difficult to deny that a Wolverine game and new Spider-Man titles are what we really want to read about as we wind down for the holidays, the Resita ransomware dump has also given a fascinating insight into some of Sony's corporate strategy and thinking. Specifically, the data breach has leaked slides that show Sony's response to Microsoft's recently approved acquisition of Activision. It's scared, in a word, especially when it comes to the impact of Microsoft essentially buying the wildly popular Call of Duty franchise as part of the blockbuster deal. As part of this acquisition, Microsoft will likely be adding major games to its Game Pass subscription service on the day of release in the future, and that's something that Sony acknowledges it will struggle to compete with. Okay, that was a mouthful. Well, I guess before I hear your thoughts on this, the only thing I have to say is I think it's been interesting to see the way that this has been covered, because I know normally people would expect journalists to just any piece of information, they're putting it out there. I mean, that's their job as far as I understand. But it seems that some people have a different feeling on this. And I think it has to do with the fact that it's Insomniac, which I think is very hypocritical, because when the Capcom leak happened or any other company, people were like, let's get it all, you know? And this one, they're like, it's not right to cover it. How dare IGN cover it or whatever? I'm like, come on, guys, it's news. If they don't cover it, someone else is going to cover it. I mean, so that's how I feel about it, I guess.
Yeah, it's very hypocritical.
Yeah,
exactly what you said. CD Projekt Red got hacked into.
Right.
Nobody seemed to care about them. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but why all of a sudden is now wrong to share info?
Why is this so different? Yeah. Listen, no one's saying on IGN to post the personal information of everyone. Obviously, we don't want that. But like the information about the games and all that, I mean, it's already out there.
I'm gonna treat this show as such. Any news or info that I get, I want to talk about it and discuss now, because I was questioning myself on, do I split this up into 2 parts, which is why there was that break there of like, maybe I do something where like, okay, these next, do I even cover it at all on like specifics on like dates and what exactly and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I care, just because of it's just interesting, purely putting the person aside and putting the politics aside. It's information. I'm interested in the information. I want to share the information. I don't think anybody's in the wrong for doing that. Who's in the wrong is the company obviously hacking them and stealing the information. But it's not on the rest of society to stay quiet. I'm never going to take that viewpoint. And if that upsets you, then whatever, that's just where we are. Because
I agree.
I'm interested and I'm going to share it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm okay with it or like that it's not wrong to commit crimes. Like, that's ridiculous to jump to such things. So I don't get why in this situation is it now wrong for people to be the very moment somebody gets a leaked piece of information, they can share it unless they agreed not to share it, right? If they were in like an NDA, that'd be the only exception to the rule. Otherwise, any journalist is going to share it the first moment they hear anything. Now, they may hold back a bit because they may not know, man, is this a credible source? What if I do share it and then I hurt my name sharing stuff that ends up not being true? That's what they wonder about. They don't wonder about it in any other facet.
Right.
So
I agree.
I'm going to share it. I was thinking of like, hey, if you don't want to hear this news, skip ahead. But what the hell are you listening to a gaming podcast if you don't want to hear this?
Don't want to hear gaming news.
That doesn't even make any sense. So I'm just like, no, let's just talk about all of it here.
Yeah, I mean, even like the kind of funny guys are friendly with some of them, and they take a, oh, we're not going to do this today and all of that. But, of course, no issue talking about any other company. So,
yeah,
it's either all on the table or not on the table,
I've seen the exact, not just like groups of people, but the exact same people being okay sharing one thing, but not okay sharing another thing. Why? Because you happen to like Insomniac more than you like this other company. That's not cool. Different favorisms based on how much or little you may like what they make. I don't know. Oh, I like Spider-Man more than I like Cyberpunk. So I'm not going to share Insomniac stuff, but I'm going to share Cyberpunk related things. No,
it's total BS, man. We all know that. So, so what do you? Before we move on, what do you think about the fact that they're making these games? Are you happy about it? Are you not happy?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I wasn't expecting. I just thought it was like a one and done deal, right? I wasn't thinking there was going to be two other two other X-Men games after it. Yeah. So that's pretty neat to know. Like, hey, maybe it's starting as a Wolverine thing and then going to bleed into X-Men as a whole. That actually has me more interested to now play Wolverine, to be honest. Because I was a little indifferent on it, especially after watching. Did you watch any video? Because I watched a leaked video of Wolverine gameplay. Like, I just sort of skimmed through it. Maybe 10 seconds in total. I just wanted to see what it looked like and how, it's a little early, but you can get the general idea of it. And I was a little like, I guess it looks okay. I'm a little down on one just because it's early, of course. We just need to see it further along. But two, it's definitely still in the vein of Sony first party of like dark and gritty and serious and not a walking simulator. I don't even agree to that. But the joke of like Last of Us or something, it's very much in that vein of like serious and you're like walking through in a bunch of, I don't know, narrative third-party adventure. Yet another one. You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of hoping that Wolverine, they would do that Insomniac spin because, like, they do, like, Ratchet and Clank. They do, whenever they did that game on Xbox, that's slipping my mind right now, with the energy drink and all that.
Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, but, like, those games can be really fun and super fun in its action and platform and all that. And I was thinking like Wolverine, what if it was like a super like okay, I want like mature action game out of Wolverine, but I don't know, slicing people up, doing combos, like a cool like Bayonetta or something, but you're Wolverine is kind of what I was hoping for, more like fun, sporadic in your face kind of thing. But this is definitely a lot more of just like playing, like you're watching that Logan movie of Wolverine, but you're playing along to it, right? But it's in that tone of the Logan movie, which I'm like, oh, dude, and another sad, lonely. I am getting tired of it because it's been so long, dude. I mean, Last of Us came out 2013. It's been 20 years now. How many of these are they going to keep doing? I want something a little more like energizing and refreshing and new and like, I don't know.
Sure. For me, it's like, okay, the idea of an X-Men game and Insomniac doing it. Yeah. Do I think they'll do a good job on it? Yeah, sure. Just the same way that I think Spider-Man 2, when I play it, will be a good game. But I want something that's, you know, like the kind of games that when I played God of War Ragnarok, I was like, okay, this is a great game. This is like way up there, you know, even if it does. So that's proof to me that they can do that formula, and some of the games rise above others. You know,
this
Spider-Man
looks like
2
Days Gone when I see Wolverine. I'm like, I don't really want that vibe.
Yeah. And I liked Days Gone, but I will not sit here and try to act like it's some top-notch game.
No, I don't think.
I understand.
I don't even think it's bad. I think
it's a decent game,
whatever. But the mood is what I mean. I'm like tired of this mood.
Yeah.
I want a different mood. So that's where I was a little bummed on. But if it bleeds into an X-Men 2, like an X-Men game after that, and 2 even, like that, now that's cool. Like now it makes me want to play it because like I'm really into X-Men as a whole, and I would love, like, you know, I don't know, because now if we're dealing with multiple characters and maybe switch between different characters, there's no way it can stay being slow and dark, right? It's gonna have to amp up, right? If I'm controlling Storm, there's got to be some more like high octane action going on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I agree.
So maybe this is like the slow start, and maybe it has like a super big climb up into some like really in your face awesome moments that I would want out of X-Men. So
yep, I agree. So it'll be a while before we find out about that. So
I'm excited on that front. Another aspect of this of just them getting hacked and a terabyte of data, and which is a lot, and a lot of people's personal info is out there, which is really, really bad. All of that's horrible stuff. I don't really know what to really say on that more other than, man, that sucks and that's bad. Let's see here. The fact that we are getting a Ratchet and Clank game, another one.
I am actually happy about that.
Yeah. I like that.
Because like before we move on, what I wanted to say was, do I think they'll do a good job with these games? Yes. But am I more interested in them doing new things, something crazy that I haven't seen, like Infamous or something, or even a Ratchet and Clank game I'm happier about, or something new, you know, would be nice.
But I was hoping for something new, and it looks like we don't have anything new here. So that's a bit of a bummer.
Yep.
Ratchet and Clank, that's cool, but I still got to get around to, like, I played a little bit of the newer game. I like that game. I still need to play and finish it and all of that. Looks cool. But yeah, I'm a little it's the 2 X-Men games that got me pretty hyped here. Outside of that, the next Spider-Man game being something where you're actually controlling Venom, that's pretty cool. But I don't know. I was expecting something a little. I was expecting even Spider-Man 2 that I actually get to at least do some Venom stuff. So the fact that that's not even the case here, and it's not until like the next game, and it's like, well, that's not enough. I would hope for more details than just, can't wait for Spider-Man 3 so I can control Venom. I'm like, I don't know about that. But if they did a whole Venom Carnage thing, now I'm interested again. Something like that. That'd have to be something a little more than just controlling Venom. So that doesn't excite me too much.
Sure.
And then this last point, what are you going to say?
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think the X-Men game has potential, you know? We'll have to see how that turns out.
I was going to say the last bit here of the Microsoft stuff, of them basically like internal documents of them being worried by them now. That's interesting. Very interesting.
That is interesting.
It's hard to really talk on it. Like, I mean, what do we really say here? But that's definitely interesting.
Yeah, I can picture all the the PlayStation employees like pointing to some PowerPoint. Do you see this? What is going on here, guys?
And the fact that they keep they're it proves to me, I thought that was some frontward facing and they weren't actually worried about it. They just saying they were. But the fact that they're scared of Call of Duty, dude, they agreed 10 years they're going to put Call of Duty not only on PlayStation, but also on Nintendo products. Okay? So first of all, you're good, dude. In 10 years, I mean, in the tech world, 10 years is such a long time.
I mean, yeah, that is. There's, you know how much is going to happen in 10 years?
If you can't get your craft together in 10 years to not be concerned about this, that's what has me concerned now. Is like, why are you this? I thought they were just saying that because Call of Duty's super popular, makes a lot of money, and PlayStation wouldn't want this deal to go through for many other reasons. But this makes me believe, they actually, I guess, were worried about Call of Duty, because Xbox now owns it. Like, I mean, what can they really do? Like, are they worried they're going to get a worse version?
I don't know. I don't know what
are they worried about? That's where I'm lost on why they're scared over this. Why do you think they're scared? I can't actually come up with a reason other than just the fact of maybe they think Xbox is lying and they won't do it, but they contractually agreed to 10 years.
No, I don't think that they think Xbox won't do it for 10 years. I think they're just sort of worrying too much about the possibilities of what could happen, in some sinister, plot here, they'll do the 10 years and then they'll immediately stop and then they'll really make Call of Duty the best.
Even if they did after 10 years, what? Oh.
I think they understand that 10 years is a long time and that's already a win in itself. But I think they were thinking before, like, no, we're not taking anything unless they didn't want a number attached to it, right? They want to we have it indefinite. We don't have to worry about this. I think they don't even want to worry. But now that Jim Ryan left, I mean, let's see who comes next and how they approach this thing. Yeah,
because this would be Jim Ryan being scared.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that, he's gone. Look, publicly he's gone because, I don't really like to travel, right? That's pretty much mostly what was said there. And which I get, look, I totally get. He's multiple times a month all over the world. Like, that get old fast, right? Whatever, but that's clearly not the actual reason. Maybe it does have to do with a lot of this stuff of maybe the rest of Sony not agreeing with Jim Ryan on dude, why are you worried about this? We got 10 years. I'm thinking you can definitely figure out a game plan and be okay. You got enough time to force. I mean, what are they going to do? Be like, no, you have to indefinitely give it to us? I don't care. Let's say it's me. I'm the head of Microsoft. In no way would I ever agree to giving any company indefinitely my product. That's stupid. I would never agree to that. 10 years is insane enough already. So I'm just thinking I don't know what they're scared of, but whatever. All right. But that's the last of what I want to say there.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick steps down next week. While it was previously announced Kotick would remain a CEO throughout 2023 to help ease the Microsoft Activision transition, it has been believed, though not confirmed, that he would step down January 1st, which did happen just a few days after that. He is now stepped down as CEO. So he has been at the helm for over 30 years. Microsoft has yet named Kotick's replacement. According to The Verge, several other Activision executives will be departing the company through March, including Vice Chairman of Blizzard and King Haman Sakanini and Chief Communications Officer Lulu Meservey, who leave in December and January, respectively. So this is a little weird. So Blizzard and King execs are also going. First of all, I guess they got their money, so I guess that's not the concern, which they could just be leaving just because they want to, or They're, worst case scenario, Microsoft is way more evil than we would ever know. And they're like, oh, dude, I cannot believe how terrible things are about to get. We got to bounce. That could be a reason. I don't know. Anyway, for now, the remaining leadership at Activision Blizzard, such as Vice Chairman Thomas Tipple, Blizzard President Mike Yabari, man, these names, dude, and King President Tajodov Samatad. Wow.
Oh, him. Okay, I know.
Will report to the recently restructured top brass at Microsoft Gaming, namely its president of game content and studios, Matt Booty. Kotick became Activision CEO in 1991 and has spearheaded the company's growth into one of the biggest publishers in the industry. Most notably, he led the acquisition of Vivendi Games, which led to the merger with Blizzard in 2008. Despite the massive financial success he engineered for the company, Kotick has been criticized for oversaturation of the market with popular franchises such as Call of Duty and Guitar Hero. Most recently, he came under fire during Activision Blizzard's sexual abuse discrimination scandal that began in the summer of 2021, where he accused of ignoring a member of employee harassment complaints for years, leading to many employees and fans to call for his resignation. One last thing here that kind of connects. I want to go over this email. It's been out since all of the court stuff was going on with Activision, but there were many, many emails, and this is starting to surface back up, and I thought it was pretty interesting to go over here. So this part is from Phil Spencer to Catherine Gluckstein, which I'm not sure. I guess she's just in charge of some of the xCloud stuff. So Phil says, I don't find it frustrating at you. These conversations help me think it through. I get frustrated that I'm not clear. My point's in line. And then this is coming back from Kathleen being like, thank you for the time and laying this all out. I find that helpful. Also, let me be clear. I'm not looking to frustrate you by talking past each other. I'm helpful to help push, blah, blah. They're going back and forth. They're both agreeing with each other of what's about to be said here. We have no strategy to win organically in mobile gaming. I can't come up with one. The only thing we could do is close all of Xbox stuff and with the same apex, try to start a mobile gaming company inside of Microsoft. This is the kind of what Bobby K is trying to do with Activision. So back in 2019, before they acquired them, probably wasn't even really thinking about acquiring them, but it was like, hey, I know Bobby over there at Activision is trying to convert it into some mobile stuff and really focus on that instead. They're saying if we were to pivot, we'd have to take all of our resources because it's going to be such a heavy lifting and just dump it all into mobile gaming. And I doubt we want to do that. So what do we do when it comes to winning the mobile market? Because the thing is, there's just so much money to be had there, and more and more people will just play games on their phone now and not bother with the rest. It is happening. So they're trying to be like, well, what do we do in this situation? And then I was seeing other emails and stuff being like, well, the results of all of this conversation led into, well, I guess we do this xCloud thing where you can connect a controller to your phone or find a good way to play on your phone but still play Xbox games instead of trying to pivot everybody into making mobile experiences, because that just doesn't sound like something they would just want to do. So it's Microsoft basically saying, hey, unless we just dump everything and go into mobile gaming, what do we really do about mobile gaming? Because we don't really want to do that. And the best thing they came up with is just, well, I guess hook it up to your TV or hook a controller up to it, but still get a similar experience. And that's kind of why the current direction is going the way it's going. Because back in 2019, they were thinking about such things. And we're thinking for half a second on well, what if we just dropped everything and just focused on mobile gaming because we'd make more money that way and stuff. But it makes me believe Phil Spencer actually games and cares about games outside of just making, because even if he doesn't and it's just purely a money thing,
sure,
it's only in the moment, right? think of any
Right.
mobile game. It may pop for a year or two, but I can't think of anything that's just been going indefinite for like 5-10 years of like a mobile experience. But at the same time, like mobile gaming is kind of new, so maybe that could still happen. I don't know, but
Yeah, I think no matter what people think about Phil Spencer, listen, I don't think the guy's perfect. I don't like every decision he's made, but I don't think anyone can deny that he truly does like video games and he tries to he doesn't seem like one of these zombie heads of the companies. You know, he's like Reggie. Same. Reggie was also seemed like he actually liked the games he would talk about. He knew about them. Jim Ryan, like, yeah, I remember there was an interview where he was like, "I'm looking forward to playing the new critically acclaimed Horizon Forbidden West." Like he sounds like a robot.
yeah, because
you know?
it was
Sounds
coming
like
out in a week or two, so he wanted to mention
exactly.
it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Meanwhile, Phil and Reggie, you know, they seem like they actually are play the games that they talk about. You know.
Let's say they didn't. They're at least thinking things through the way we would think things through, which makes me relate to them because they're like, how would we even do this unless we just put all of our resources into it? And we don't really want to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
seeing him thinking this way makes me be like, damn, I really appreciate that actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
Interesting. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. All right.
Next up, we got Bethesda outlining 2024 plans for Starfield, including expanded ship customization and more. All right, this one's for you, Tim. We'll be adding new ways to travel, and you'll now be able to access city maps while exploring the major cities. The update reads.
Oh, by the way, let me pause there. So you haven't played Starfield. A big
I have not.
issue is when you're in a city, you can't like pull up a map and see where you are and what's in the city in terms of looking at a map, right? It's all just going there yourself and just having to memorize and just having to associate things with this or that, which
Uh,
isn't a bad thing, I think. And Zelda approaches it that way, right? But I guess Zelda still has an overall map. So as long as you like add a map, but I see what they're worried about, and I agree. You don't want to just have a map with a bunch of question marks everywhere, right? I don't want that gameplay either. So as long as they just put a map to where it just shows like, hey, this is where you are, and this is the structure of the area that you're in, but not actually mark things on the map, I think I'm okay with that. So anyway, I just needed to mention that right now there's no map for the game.
yeah. So like, I know some people like the total, you know, freedom, no map kind of thing. For me, I'm back and forth on it. Like when I played the original Dark Souls, for example, I know that they did it so well where everything's interconnected, you can kind of learn it, but it was still a little frustrating for me. So when you have bigger games and there's no map, it does kind of drive me crazy a little bit. So I think that's a fair one, you know.
Elden Ring, same thing. Like it doesn't give you all the info; it just gives you like as if you discovered a map wherever you were, and you're just looking at how the land is placed out. I think as long as it's like that, I'm totally okay with him adding that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
Okay. We'll be expanding our ship customization with ship decorations, new ship building options, and more. We're also excited to be adding all new gameplay options with these new settings. You'll be able to alter your gameplay to allow for an easier or more challenging experience that will expand beyond our normal difficulty setting. These will also let you, or hold on, sorry. So also allow you to easily customize carry capacity, cargo access, distance, ship damage, vendor credits, how you suffer afflictions, new survival mechanics, and more. Bethesda says these updates will begin rolling out in February, with team targeting updates roughly every 6 weeks. After the launch of ship customization and new gameplay options, Bethesda says official mod support is next with the launch of creations. Beginning early next year, Starfield will be getting its own exporter, and you'll have access to a new creation kit. The update ends with Bethesda teasing Starfield's first expansion, Shattered Space, which is due out next year. It'll feature new story content, new locations, new gear, and more. Elsewhere in the update, Bethesda shared some interesting statistics about Starfield players in 2023 so far, and I wanted to highlight two I felt was big. 13 million players and 5,178,133 players have crossed the Unity.
Meaning they beat the game.
Beat the game, okay.
Over 5 million actually completed it. I think that's gigantic. And that really made me like, is that even true? Because I keep hearing how people just like, it's whatever and fall off. Clearly, that's not the case. 5 million out of 13 million actually crossed the Unity. That's major. That's really big, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking at least 40 hours if you just as fast as possible mainline to maybe 25. You'd have to really speed run that. But that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah. We're
I
getting a
agree.
new creation kit, meaning like mod support on console and PC, like officially. So, like inside the game, just launching, you just kind of pick what you want to add to the game up inside of the game launch. That's gonna be really fun, and I think this game can greatly improve the very moment all of this starts, which is gonna be real soon, February. So, I'm pretty excited. I think this game is gonna have a lot of legs, and I think it's gonna do some impressive numbers and turn out to be a really good thing even for people who may not be that into it. But looking at this, it looks like people are more into it than what I thought.
Yeah, no, that's great that they're supporting it so regularly. You know, every 6 weeks they do a big update. That's cool.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
all right.
Armor Core 6 online update includes ranked matchmaking and new PvP maps. They just released it last week. It's currently out. It has new parts to enhance for your Armored Core layouts as well. But yeah, new PvP maps to face off against other players and get those nameplates up.
Yeah, I mean I think they're just making a good game even better. That's awesome. That's really cool. I never really got into the PvP, but I'd imagine the way people are with From Software games with PvP, usually there'll probably be a community there for a while. So that's cool.
Yep.
I like that. Great game if you have not played it.
I'm going to take this one because I just watched the video and I meant to share it. I was thinking because I meant to share it in our Facebook group because, man, dude. I wasn't expecting a tear to be rolling down my cheek as I watched a Tetris video, but it happened. This was an incredible story. I'm gonna say the story here, but I really, really stress that you guys watch this video. Let me go ahead and shout out the creator here because what's even more awesome here, Tetris. Who created this video? Let's see. It's all over. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of NBC Today News. Right here, though. A Game Scout is the YouTuber. And the very first comment is actually the kid who did it. And he's like, amazing video, Scout. It's amazing to be in one of your videos since your videos are what got me into Tetris scene to begin with. So the dude who even created the video is his channel that got this kid even into it. And he just broke, forget world record. This goes far beyond a world record in a game. You'll understand why here. So let me read this story here. So
go ahead.
Willis Gibson just beat an unbeatable Tetris game that players have been attempting to complete since its release on NES back in 1989. On January 1st, Gibson reached level 157 of Tetris, a feat previously thought impossible. Now, when people say impossible, they don't like, what they're meaning is at level 27, the pieces just move at the same speed going down, right? And I want to say no matter how hard you hold left or right on the D-pad, you can't get the piece to hit the edges of the screen. And so because of that, it just auto fails every time. And so nobody can get past a certain point because it's going too fast to even move left or right, okay? So people started coming up with all these different methods on, okay, well, how can we move it left or right? So new techniques like hyper tapping, one discovered in 2010. So from all the way, some guy reaching the last level happened in, I want to say, the late 90s, okay? And it wasn't until 2010 that this Thor guy discovered this hyper tapping method to where you just like as fast as you possibly could tap on the D-pad, and it eventually can get it over enough and maybe complete a level or two that way. And then so he had the world record, getting further than anybody else because of this hyper tapping method. But it's just not enough. So eventually, this rolling technique got figured out, which is super weird. And this is where the video really helps because I don't know how to describe it, but Melee players use it quite often. It's like you need to hit the button, but hit it again, but never really let your finger off of it completely and kind of get it into the corner of the button where it kind of thinks it's getting hit and hit again, but in like a super quick method that isn't quite letting go of it completely. And you got to get it in like the corner of the button and get it almost like it gets stuck for half a second or something. And by half a second, I mean millisecond. But anyway, there's some bit there with like rolling. And you have to like tap the controller as you're doing it. People thought of it because of arcade fighting sticks. You would have to roll the keys to do better. And then so they use that same rolling technique. Well, outside of a fighting stick control pad here, let's try to do it on like a normal control pad, but a similar approach here. And then they were able to discover, oh, now we can hit buttons way faster than what we thought was possible prior by like tapping the controller, but rolling your fingers in some weird way. Anyway, so which was discovered back in 2021. Allowing players to reach never before seen levels. Before that, getting past the 30s was all but impossible, and now Gibson has made to level 157. Upon reaching that level, Tetris serves Gibson a kill screen, meaning it has crashed, ending his impossible run. It took Gibson, who goes by Blue Scotty on YouTube, 38 minutes to reach this new kill screen. BBC reports that Gibson has been playing Tetris for about 2 years, or since he was 11. Alongside his achievement of reaching level 157, Gibson has also obtained the new highest score for Tetris. Players can theoretically make it to level 255, and players are already trying. They just have to get lucky and avoid the crash points from level 157 onward. Upon beating level 255, players are brought back to the first level. Why? Possibly due to a byte being defined as 8 bits, which is what the NES was capable of, and a byte representing 256 different values, meaning it would eventually just loop around after beating 255. So it's this whole big long thing of many years of people thinking you could only get the 30s all the way to like, oh, people are reaching level 98, 99, But this 13-year-old kid somehow did what people have been spending decades actively doing like themselves for like 20 years plus, trying to figure out how to get higher and higher in these like damn near impossible feats. It is such a good video, and just a good, like, it's very heartwarming too, because the kid is just like, look, if this doesn't prove that if you really actually set your mind to something, no matter how many times people tell you it's impossible, and no matter how many times we think a certain thing is impossible, there's always a way if you could somehow figure out a way.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, it's really, really neat. So,
all right, I'm gonna have to watch that video after this because I wanna check that out.
Yeah, actually, what you should do is play to your class. I'm telling you, you will inspire.
Oh, that's good. That's a good idea.
You'll inspire many kids, like for real.
Okay, maybe I'll do that tomorrow morning then.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
all right.
Yeah, and then last here, new lose bit, Xbox toaster. You can buy up at Walmart now. So
that is so funny.
It's just an Xbox Series S, and like, but it's technically a toaster, but it looks to be the exact size of what an S would be. But anyway,
that's too funny. All right.
Yep.
By the way, I took this next part. I took a screenshot of my phone. I did like one of those long screenshots. Kind of funny here, but it got all the pertinent information. So
the Steam review came in, so figured we just show these here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have, I guess, go over your numbers here.
Sure. So I have 26 games that I've played this year, 14 new games, one...
Is that a demo?
Demo?
I don't know.
Yeah, one demo's played, yep.
Okay.
209 achievements unlocked,
Okay.
21 games, 10 rare achievements. Obviously spent a lot of time on it seems. Played with mouse and keyboard, 68%, 32% with controller. That makes sense because I had a few games that they controller with. But it looks like my 17% of my playtime, Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4, 14% of my playtime, and Halo Infinite, 10%. I'm actually going to pull up my thing here on the side while we're doing this because I would like to get a little bit more of this info
when I was
here.
looking at the stats, I was quite like disappointed. I was like, this year in review kind of sucks compared to the other ones. What they want to highlight is like stuff I'm not really that interested in.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's a little weird. But yeah, so 37 play games this year for me, 18 of them new games, 60 achievements unlocked. 21% of the time was with mouse and keyboards, which makes sense. I usually play with controller, even if I'm playing on my computer. Because what I'm really doing is shooting it over to my TV or my Steam Deck and playing there.
Right.
Final Fantasy 14 online at 14% of total playtime, 41 sessions played there. Gorilla Tag, 12% of my playtime with 40 sessions there. That is my kid playing Gorilla Tag in VR. He's obsessed. And then Final Fantasy 6, 11% of my playtime with 21 sessions played. Yes, I have been playing 6. I've started up 21 times, and
all right. I pulled up the whole thing because I wanted to see if there's any other cool stats here that we might want to talk to. You know what's funny is it shows what kind of games you're playing, and the one of them now that pops up because of Armored Core is mechs, which I thought was funny. But let's see. So we talked about I talked about Hogwarts, Resident Evil 4, because my percentages are so low. So I must have played a bunch of games for a long time because I have Hogwarts 17% of my time, Resident Evil 4 14%, Halo 10%, Dead Space 10%.
Okay.
Street Fighter 6 10%. Okay. And it said I did play 11 games on Steam Deck, so that's nice to see. Pentiment, Armored Core, Cocoon, American Nightmare, Final Fantasy 4. Yeah, those are all games that make sense to play on there. And then which games I played with the controller? Armored Core, Street Fighter, Witness, Pentiment, Cocoon. That also makes sense.
Yeah.
And my longest daily streak from February 14th to March 3rd. Wow, that's kind of rare for me to play every day when things are so busy these days. So that's cool.
February to March. Is that Hogwarts?
It says Hogwarts, Dead Space.
Okay.
Sims 4? I think my kids were playing that or something.
Okay. Let's get into what we're watching, what we're playing.
All right. Well, first, I beat The Messenger. I really liked it. I will say, though, the first half of The Messenger is totally what I wanted. It's a straight up old school platformer, not a Metroidvania.
You remember me saying, no, I was like, oh, did you get to the change yet? And you didn't yet, because I remember being like, oh, well, there's a big shift in the game. And I was, okay,
Right. So that being said, I love Metroidvania games. Don't get me wrong. But after playing this game for 4 or 5 hours or however many hours that first section was, and basically every level being really precise platforming, doing some attacks, really fun, felt great, fighting some cool bosses, a funny story, cool writing. And then the big change where it's like, now you have to backtrack to these places and do this and find this. And I honestly did not like that part as much. Again, not because I'm opposed to any sort of Metroidvania, but number one, I was using a guide because I didn't know where to go half the time. I feel like they didn't do a great job of explaining where you have to go, or maybe it's just me. I don't know. And then number two, I just wasn't enjoying that as much. What I loved about it was I'd sit in front of the TV, I'd run, jump, shoot. I mean, not shoot, swing my weapon, whatever, and then fight the bosses. And I loved that. I was like, oh, this game nails this. And then when I did that second section, I was like, okay, this is okay. But the game for me went from like way up here to drop down a little bit, And then by the time I finished, I liked the last boss fight. And then I played the DLC, and the DLC was just like the first half, which I was like, okay, we're back on this again. So overall, I thought it was a pretty solid game, but I'm very disappointed that it didn't just continue what it was doing already,
Yeah, it goes from like NES style Ninja Gaiden game to like a 16-bit Metroidvania. And I like that the graphic change happened, like the style. I thought, oh, that's neat. They're doing something different there. But I definitely agree with you on it made it not as solid of an experience because it's going from like super tight action platformer game to something that feels a lot more loose and not as interesting. I don't know.
Yep, I agree. And again, I still liked it, and it made me excited to play Sea of Stars eventually. So I'll get to that at some point. Okay, I spoke briefly on Octopath Traveler 2. I'm very early on. I've only completed one chapter with one character, and that first chapter, I will say, was very intriguing.
Which character did you pick?
Throne.
Okay,
The thief
the
girl?
girl. Yeah. Okay. I like her story a lot, actually. Actually,
Yeah, I thought
I
it was a really
like
good
every
start.
story that I experienced. I actually really liked, and I've done 6 of them
Okay,
so
great.
far. So I
Great,
don't know
yeah.
about, maybe there's 1 or 2 super weak ones, but to my understanding, they're all super solid. So
That's great. Yeah, yeah. Immediately the visuals got me, the music. I was like, okay, I expect this. And they added the little speed up feature, which I love, love, love that because that was in Bravely Default and it was one of my favorite things. Just
yes,
no need for the
yes.
battles to be so drawn out. Yeah, I'm super interested in her story so far. So far it's great. I'm loving it. I'm glad it's on Steam Deck. That makes it way easier. So yeah. So that's that. I'll mention this game Slay the Princess real quick that I had no idea about until I just saw it in someone's top 10 games of the year. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I don't know what
And
this is. So let me look this up.
yeah, look it up. It's a visual novel. It's not that long. However, it's everyone raves about how well done it is. And so it got my attention and I watched some reviews and basically the game is you're this character, there's a narrator, you're on your way to this cabin and in the cabin is this princess, and you're tasked with killing the princess. And you don't know why. You can ask, you have choices. You can ask questions. What am I doing here? Why am I killing this princess? Whatever. I don't want to say too much, obviously, but it goes from there, and then there's branching paths, and there's like a lot of replayability. And it's like, one of the taglines was like, oh, you'll see how hard it is to actually kill the princess or where you go through with it or whatever. And I was like, oh, this seems interesting. So I played the first, I guess, chapter in one run of it, I guess. And it was very interesting. Voice acting was really good. There's like a narrator, and there's like in Disco Elysium they had this too. Your voice of insecurity, your confident voice, whatever. Like there's like these different voices that are talking to you as well. There's like a lot of time loop stuff going on, so which is very related to like Alan Wake style stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's basically just a visual novel. But they do the way that they do the paths and the acting and the choices is really good. And it's like a horror game, and it's like a game that makes you kind of think about the humanity of this character, this princess, whatever. So yeah, I don't want to say much more, but what I've played so far is very interesting. So I can't say that I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the best games of the year yet, but that's what the people were saying that I watched. So I got to see what I think. But yeah, it definitely has my interest so far. So
I pulled it up, and yeah, by the way it looks, it already has my interest. So
yeah,
I like the art style.
It's supposed to be only a few hours long to get, like, I guess through what technically one playthrough, I guess. But then it's very likely you'll go back and see what else could happen, So yeah,
Okay.
I'll come back to that one at some point. But yeah, I wanted to mention that one because it seems to have flown under the radar, and people are really raving about it. The people I've seen talking about it. So
cool.
And finally, Alan Wake 2, which, you know what? I think when I wrote my post in the group, I'm just going to read that because that was like my immediate thoughts after I played it. So I beat it this morning, and I will mention, I found that the last 3 or 4 chapters just flew by. Like they were super fast compared to everything else,
Okay.
I kept thinking, oh, well, I have 4 chapters left. It's going to be a while, whatever. But then they're going so quick, and they're flipping and flopping between the two, and then finish really quicker. But anyway, this is what I said. Ready? Okay. If my post will appear, that'd be great. Just finished Alan Wake 2. Man, am I so glad I dove into this universe. I had already played Control, but in the last few months, I went back and played Alan Wake, American Nightmare, both DLCs, Control, AWE, DLC, and finally Alan Wake 2. How they managed to connect all of this in a really impressive way is beyond me, and I still stand by that. It was really impressive. They nailed that part. The story was very interesting and mind-bending. At some points, it was definitely confusing, but that's what YouTube is for. I'm going to watch a few videos analyzing everything. The game had some truly unique mechanics that I really enjoyed. The Mind Place had so many cool things going on that I haven't seen in other games. The blend of live action with gameplay was seamless, and I feel Remedy are the only developers capable of pulling this off in an effective way. The main negative I have about this game is the combat. It's much better than the original Alan Wake, but that's not saying much. It was decent, but I got to the point where I was just started running away from encounters when I could. You dump a bunch of ammo and resources only to gain nothing since the enemies don't drop loot. Go explore a bit and get swarmed more and more. It almost turned me off completely to optional exploration. The exploration and combat were the downsides to this game, in my opinion. The story, characters, set pieces, and environments were all top-notch. So good, in fact, that I can still say this game is easily a 9 out of 10. So glad I played it and looking forward to whatever Remedy makes next. So, yeah, I really feel very strongly that the combat and exploration is something that stopped caring about at all more than halfway through, I'd say. It just wasn't worth it. And once I realized that you could just run past them, I just started trying to do that. Do a little dodge, run past them. And I had no problem with that. You know, I just didn't really want to deal with it anymore. However, the characters, the story, all those set pieces, those awesome moments, the mind place, all that stuff I thought was excellent. And it just goes to say how good it is that it made me love the game that much, even though I don't like the combat and exploration that much, you know. So
the real question overall, is Alan Wake 2 an RPG? I'm joking. It's definitely not, first of all.
No, definitely not. That's funny. But yeah, man, I'm really happy I played. I'm really happy that it kind of, I've seen it happen between me and you frequently. Like, for example, you'll be talking up a game a lot. I'll kind of like start looking things up about it. Next thing you know, I'm playing it, and vice versa. I love when that happens because, man, I'm really happy I actually actually took the time to play it, you know, because I felt like out of the loop with when it was announced. I didn't know anything about it. I was like, oh, everyone seems excited about this, but you know, so.
Yep. No, I was obsessing over there for a bit. I need to go back and finish it. I got pretty far. I mean, I've been playing it pretty regularly outside of just over this break. I wasn't playing that. I've just been stuck on this Star Ocean second story arc. Since I started this, I haven't played anything else. I'm still playing only this, and I'm still just really, really hooked. So, Alan Wake 2, yeah, I mean, it's, how do you describe its narrative is just so well done, and not just the plot, but just what you get to see and experience. Like, I don't know how to it's just great. I don't know how to describe it. It's a really if you're into like psychological type things, right? Like if you're like, let's say you're into the Matrix a lot, you know, you would really like something like this.
Yeah. I think that the concepts that it deals with are really interesting. And I think if you have any confusion about the story by the time you're done, I don't think that that's a sign of either of these two things. I don't think that's a sign of the story's told poorly, and I don't think it's a sign of you're an idiot. I just think they purposely really make you think twice about, hold on a sec, like the whole concept of writing someone into existence. But you only did that because some event happened in the future. And so that already you know what I mean? Like you start kind of going back. It's like the Cocoon thing, right? But in a different sense.
Now, why I mentioned The Matrix is because you could watch that movie 10 times over, watch it the 11th time, and realize something new and something click even more than before. Of like, oh, I didn't understand there was this message also being said along the way. Stuff like that is going to happen in Alan Wake 2, of just trying to not only just tell what's going on with these characters, but trying to get you to understand bigger like life philosophies, and trying to get you to understand all of these weird things that you're going to have to run through maybe multiple times to truly understand. But that's, I think, a good thing, as long as it's also great the first time you run through it, which it clearly is. So yeah,
totally agree. I'm really excited to see if they are going to continue this sort of shared universe, this story. Like, what are they going to do next? You know?
I saw somebody say a few days ago of like, they did play Alan Wake 2 first, and then they went back and played Alan Wake 1, and they're like, oh, this is almost kind of a continual kind of prequel, because the way things sort of loop and like it doesn't. Gotcha. Now, like somebody saying you don't have to play 1, I'm like, no, you definitely have to play 1. But you could play 1 after 2, and they could probably coincide with each other still. So I thought, oh, that's pretty interesting, because somebody did play it second and said that it was actually totally worked. So I thought that was interesting. And I could see why. I don't want to say why, but I could totally see why that would that would work. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, here's what's coming out here from June 3rd to June 18th. January 3rd to January 18th. Crystal Story, Dawn of Dusk, PC, January 12th. Legend of Grimrock, Switch, January 15th. Art of Rally on iOS, January 18th. That's a good game. Bulletstorm VR. I am going to be getting on this. I've been trying to get into VR, and again, I'm whatever on that Asgard's Wrath game. But totally forgot to mention it, and I've been playing it. That mini golf game. I played it.
Oh,
Someone in our
Devlin
group was
mentioned.
mentioning
Yeah.
it. I forget even what it's called.
It's Walkabout, something like that, isn't it?
Walkabout, mini golf, something.
Something like that, yeah.
But yes, I've put in about 3 hours.
Okay.
I was really shocked and surprised. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay, great.
It's very well made. The best part about it is just like the way it feels and the physics and everything are like perfect. It's like, man, you really kind of feel like you're there. Like,
oh man, you'll have to let him know. He'll be happy about that one.
I was blown away. I thought the quality was fantastic. I really love. There's so much variety of different like places you can go to. You can like be in space. The space course was super cool. I played the Myst course. Myst, like the adventure PC game back in the 90s. That was super neat. Ton of fun. Feels great. I could totally see this being a good party game, which you would just have to have a quest to make this happen. I guess each time when somebody goes, you just throw the headset onto the next person. But it's so easy and pick up to play, yet so masterfully done. I mean, I was really surprised. I thought it was fantastic. So, huge shout out there. So anyway, playing that Resident Evil 4 VR is great. So I was like, okay, this Bulletstorm comes out here soon, which I really like that game. I think that could work wonderful because you can sort of, the whole tether thing. If you ever played Bulletstorm, I don't know if you have, but you can sort of like,
I haven't played it.
You can throw a tether, sort of hook them, pull them back, and then mess them up that way. And that'd be really cool in VR, I feel. So that comes out January 18th. And then Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown here, January 18th. On PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. And then Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. So I guess Turnip Boy is going to be a whole series here because there's that Turnip Boy tax game or something. What am I thinking of? Turnip Boy.
Turnip Boy?
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Hold on.
Don't know that one.
It's actually quite good. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion is the name of the game.
Oh, I have heard of this. Okay, yes.
Yes. Well, I just noticed there's a new one here.
Turnip, what a funny name.
Right? So it's Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. Very curious what that is. Xbox,
Turnip Boy Robs
Switch,
a Bank.
PC,
awesome.
January 18th. Now, Turnip Boy was Game Pass. So does that mean this one's Game Pass? Rob.
Interesting.
No, but it's $15. That's not bad.
There you go.
Anyway.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, and then that's the last one there. So
I love that name. God, I can't get enough of that. It's so funny.
All right. Well, that'll do it for episode 2 in the bank here with 2024. And
there we go.
We are at 1:30 now.
It's crazy. Who would have thought?
All right. Well, go buy an Xbox toaster up at Walmart, dude. I actually want one. If it's like $30-$40,
there you go. If it's a cheap price, yeah, why not?
I might get.
Also, now that we're sharing the library, I assume what's the rules for it? Can you play Slay the Princess if you wanted to while I'm playing something else?
I can't play it while you're playing something else, and I can only play it when you're online. So it was rarely a thing. So I was like, just forget about it.
I forgot about that. So I can just leave my thing. If my computer's in sleep mode, is it not online, I'm assuming?
No, it goes offline once your computer goes to sleep.
Gotcha. Okay.
But, I don't want to sit there and, have you leave your computer on just so I can play random games. I got plenty to play anyway.
Sure.
But
I'm just saying, I don't mind ever doing it if it's,
I guess if it's an individual case, I guess I'll let you know. I'll be like, hey, I'm going to check this out. That cool. And then I guess sort of tell you there and we work it out that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't mind leaving my computer open anyway. It's just a habit of leaving it. And then
how much is Slay the Princess?
I want to say it was like $15 or $16 or something like that. It was on sale for the first few days, I think.
It's 18, which that is a little pricey for something that's just a few hours. But I'm saying it's not really knowing that much context, so I don't know.
But you're definitely gonna, well, at least it seems like it's definitely gonna be something you go to more than once. But yes, I agree with what you're saying.
All right. Well, until next week. See ya.
See ya.